around because they understand that according to the rules of engagement, they can't shoot a wounded man who is not escaping or doesn't have a weapon, but they're certainly very eager to do so. A van of Good Samaritans that is lives in the area and has 2 children in it, then sees Saeed calling on the curbside and stops, and the 2 other men, it's not clear whether they come from the houses or whether they came from the van, then assist Saeed and try to carry him to the van. In the meantime, the Apache asks for permission to kill all these people, including the wounded journalist, and under the basis that the dead have been collected and the wounded man is taken away. Initially, they say possibly that the van is stopping to collect weapons, but they do not maintain that in their request for permission to kill him. And permission is given, and they shoot the van and kill Saeed. He is, of course, dropped by the people trying to get him to the van. He is individually targeted and killed, and the van is destroyed and disabled. 2 children, miraculously, the 2 children of the driver, survive with wounds and are found by U.S. troops and eventually taken to hospital. And then about 20 minutes later, the Apache helicopter goes to another area about a half a kilometer away, and it sees someone walking down the street who may have an AK-47. It's not entirely clear, but they're carrying something. And they disappear from the street from the view of the Apache, and when the Apache comes back to the street, they're no longer there, so they assume they have gone into a building, the roof of which is still under construction. And they then ask for permission to launch a Hellfire missile attack on this building. However, this is a busy street, and there's other buildings on the side, and the bottom floors of that building have been completed, and we know, in fact, that 3 families were living in the bottom stories of that building. They line up and get ready to fire their missile, and a pedestrian has been walking in the point of view of the gun camera across the scene. They do not bother to pause for him, even though there's plenty of ample of opportunity to not fire or to come around again. They launch the Hellfire missile into the building. The pedestrian is blown to smithereens, and apparently 7 people who were also in that building were also killed. We sent people to Baghdad and obtained the death certificate of the wife of the owner who was killed that day in the building, and a number of other women were also killed. Then civilians from the street gather around to look at to see whether there's any survivors and pick their way through the outskirts of the debris, and the Apache comes around, and this time the other Apache, there's 2, fires another missile, thermobaric missile, into the building, and we don't actually see that missile explosion. However, we hear them talking about it, and when the Apache comes around again and we see the building again, there's more smoke and more debris, and no sign of these rescuers who are going to the aid of the wounded or killed in that building. And the Apache fires in a 3rd missile and destroys the building somewhat. And that is the end of the tape.
All right, now, I got a lot of questions for you here. And let's see, I guess we got about 12 minutes. First of all, I interviewed a young man named Josh Stieber on the show 2 days ago, and he was not involved in this particular thing, but he recognized the voices of the guys at the ground control giving the authority to fire as his friends from his same unit there. Yep. And one thing he said, and I want to parse this carefully now, he was not confirming what we all know to be false, I think, so far, that there was a firefight in the immediate area and reason to believe that these men were part of it. But what he did say was that there was a team of American soldiers on the ground involved in a ground mission nearby, and that Apache was assigned to take out anything that could be a threat near them. Now, those are pretty loose rules of engagement as they are, but it is taking something into account, perhaps, if that's correct, that is not immediately clear in the video, that there was actual mission to protect soldiers nearby, even if they had not been in a firefight anytime recently. Is that correct?
Well, it's clear on the, if you go to the website, all that context is clear, and there's a number of articles from immediately the day after. There was and there's a map that shows precisely where U.S. forces were. There was a Humvee approximately 2 blocks away from where this took place. Now, we must remember this is a suburb of New Baghdad. This is where people live and go to work, and there may be U.S. forces entering into this suburb, but nonetheless it is a suburb where people live and work.
Sure.
And yes, as far as we understand, that Apache was called in by, in response to hearing small arms fire somewhere in the vicinity of that suburb, but 28 minutes beforehand.
Mm. And as you've said in other interviews that I've seen, there's no indication that small arms fire had anything to do with these men that we see killed by the Apache in this video. But
that's correct.
I wonder,
and there's no statements made by the pilots to suggest that, or no statements made by the pilots to suggest that the band of rescuers was previously known to be involved in any sort of insurgent activity. And even in the military investigation that occurred, which was only just released to the public after our video, which has many errors in it, errors of fact, but it doesn't make the allegation, any specific allegation that these men were known or the rescuing van was known.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder, since it was 2 Reuters reporters who were killed in this thing, along with, I think, 10 other people, has Reuters or anyone else been able to figure out exactly what assignment these reporters were on and who these men were that they were with?
Yeah.
I mean, for all I know, they were part of the Badr Brigade aligned with the government of Iraq at the time.
I'll give you my hypothesis on this. The Reuters journalists initially that morning were on, according to Reuters, were on a weightlifting assignment. And although Namir, the photographer, is a respected war photographer, and he was then diverted to this area to photograph some of the damage that had occurred earlier that morning. So the U.S. had been sort of doing a sweep over this broader area beginning at 6 a.m. So there was